All right, let's dive into something really cool today. We're going to explore this fascinating, kind of ancient idea that deep inside our skulls, we might just have our very own spiritual antenna.
So let's just start with this question. I want you to think about this for a second. What if your brain wasn't just for, thinking, but also for receiving? What if it had this built-in component, something designed to tune into frequencies way beyond our normal senses? It sounds pretty wild, right? But it's a thought that has absolutely captivated people for centuries.
So where does an idea like that even begin? Well, you might be surprised. Our journey today starts not in some ancient mystical text, but deep inside the physical anatomy of the human brain. We're looking for a tiny but incredibly powerful hidden jewel.
Okay, so imagine we could just zoom right into the very core of your brain. We're going past all those complex folds of the cortex, heading straight for the geometric center. I mean, think about that location. It's incredibly well protected, smack dab in the middle of everything.
And right there, you'd find it. Something so small, you'd almost miss it. It's no bigger than a single grain of rice. It seems almost insignificant, but this tiny little structure, it's the absolute star of our show today. So, in modern medicine, this little thing is called the pineal gland, and its officially recognized job is super important. It's basically our body's master clock. It produces melatonin, the hormone that tells us when it's time to sleep and when to wake up. It's like the director of our whole daily rhythm.
But that scientific explanation, that's really only half the story. See, for thousands of years, cultures all around the world have believed this tiny gland does something much, much more. And this is where things get really interesting. This is where biology meets belief.
Which kind of makes you wonder, right? Is its job really that simple? Is it just a biological timekeeper? Or could its supercentral, super protected location be a hint that it has a much more profound purpose?
And hey, this isn't some new age idea either. Get this, even the father of modern Western philosophy, René Descartes, a guy all about logic and reason, he was totally captivated by it. He's the one who famously called this gland the principal seat of the soul, the exact point where the mind and body connect. So you've got this fascinating dual identity, right? On one hand, you have the science, melatonin production, regulating sleep. Simple. But on the other hand, you've got this incredibly rich spiritual history. In the West, it's the seat of the soul, and in many Eastern traditions, it's known as the third eye, the center of our intuition, a gateway to higher consciousness. Two very different takes on the same tiny gland. Okay, so that brings us right to this spiritual antenna theory. How does this metaphor actually work? I mean, if the pineal gland really is an antenna, what's it supposed to be receiving? And how do we, hear the signal?
Well, the theory itself is actually pretty simple and kind of elegant. The idea is just like a radio pulls invisible waves out of the air and turns them into music, the pineal gland is built to receive subtle energies or information, stuff that exists outside of our normal five senses. So how does it supposedly happen? Well, it's usually broken down into 3 steps. First up is activation. This is about turning on or sensitizing the gland, maybe through things like meditation. Then comes reception, where the antenna actually picks up a signal. And finally, the really cool part, transduction. That's where that invisible signal gets converted into something our conscious mind can actually understand, like an idea, an image, or just a really strong gut feeling.
Okay, this is all a really fascinating concept, but let's bring it back to us. What's the practical side of this? If you could actually activate this antenna, what would that mean for your daily life? How would it change your experience of reality?
Seriously, think about it. If you could clear away all the static and perfectly tune your own internal antenna, what kind of new information, what kind of new perceptions might start coming through?
Well, according to people who believe in this, the results could be totally transformative. We're talking about a huge jump in intuition. Those gut feelings that just turn out to be spot on? A flood of creativity. These deep, profound feelings of being connected to everything, even incredibly vivid dreams or visions that give you real insight and clarity.
But there's also a warning that comes with this theory. The idea is that parts of our modern lifestyle, things like certain chemicals in our water or heavily processed foods, can cause the pineal gland to calcify. Basically, it builds up these tiny crystals that are thought to dull its sensitivity, making it harder to pick up those subtle signals. So, this really brings all the threads together for the ultimate question, doesn't it? If the pineal gland truly is some kind of gateway, then a gateway to what? Where does it actually lead?
And that's the incredible place this tiny gland holds in our imagination,
On one side, it's a biological timekeeper that science understands. On the other, it's a mysterious, mystical gateway. It sits right at the crossroads of what we know and what we can only wonder about.
So why does this idea stick around? I think it's because it challenges us to think bigger about who we are. It suggests that our everyday experience of reality, everything we see, hear, and touch, might not be the whole picture. It really hints that we might have these hidden abilities to perceive so much more.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Are we just complex biological machines? Or are we something more? Are we organic receivers built with the potential to tune into a reality that science just hasn't figured out how to measure yet? Maybe the answer is waiting for you, right in the center of your own mind.